I think I'm really trying to understand again like makes what makes my life hard, or what is making everyone else's life really hard. Because I just think that, yeah, there is a lot of people that are very unhappy and unsatisfied with their life, and that, stepping into the real world, it is a little bit more complicated and it's not as easy as some people would like to say it is, because the truth is it is very difficult, and you do have to learn how to navigate these relationships with other people. And you also need to learn how to navigate, again, like the trauma and the past difficulties that you had to endure as a kid, and now onto adulthood you really have to figure out like what is it that I'm doing that would make people mad or triggered, and like what are things that, like, it's just difficult. It's really difficult to navigate it and trying to overcome those fears, because I know that everyone has a fear and everyone is scared of something. But sometimes many people cannot really cope with their fears, and so they resort to like doing drugs and alcohol or even smoking cigarettes. And I think that that's how many people deal with their difficulties, is trying to escape it. But there's other people that don't want to escape it and want to constantly deal with their problems. But I'm just trying to understand, and I'm trying to question, like, how do you even like try to fit in a society where everyone is so uniquely diverse and complicated that no matter how much you really try to be understood, like you're always gonna deal with being rejected. And like, how then am I gonna achieve the things that I want in my life? And then how am I even gonna get the things that I need and that are necessary for me to survive if it's very difficult for the people around me to understand me, or at least have some form of empathy? Because maybe for me, having empathy for others can be quite difficult, but I don't like make it I don't make it their problem to deal with, and I don't really force people to deal with my own problems, but rather I tend to be the one who hides my problems often so that other people can have an easier time, probably. But I guess it depends, and it can be subjective as to other people, because maybe other people try to people please more by being more like of the kinder and reliable person. But at the end of the day, being more authentic and being yourself is what would lead you more to the successful pathway. But I'm just confused, like, how do you even navigate this lifestyle, and how do you navigate this society where we all have to depend on other people when everyone else is always actively trying to fight against you, or always trying to actively fight against people that are disabled or have mental illnesses, or people that are disabled and cannot try to wear a mask? Because those people are usually going to be the outcasts, and those people are obviously going to be the ones that will suffer, and they will have to pay the consequences due to them choosing themselves. And that, to the normal society, that would be considered selfish. But I don't think choosing yourself is selfish. I think that's just like being truthful to yourself. And if that's like already difficult for people who work a normal job, and people that, you have to rely on others to survive, then I don't know what to do really, because it's really just difficult. Because I'm thinking about like people with like all forms of disorders: ADHD, OCD, schizophrenia, and then there's even like personality types that are like codependency, avoiding personality disorder. Um, yeah, it's like, how do you even navigate that again? Because I know that I'm not the only one who feels oftentimes so confused with what's happening in this world. But like, I know that I can take an action and just continue dealing with the problem. But for me, like, I don't really see anything improving, and it just continuously gets worse for me when, like, the more I interact with people and the more that I am exposed to this real world, like, I just don't see any form of like happiness formed there. I don't even feel like a sense of like completion, like, oh, I completed that task or I did this task. Like, I feel more like unsatisfied and just so confused, like what even was the point of that, because I didn't even like feel a sense of happiness doing that, and I felt like I just had to do it to survive. And now I feel like that's how most people feel, but some people would just rather wear a mask and say like, this is my life and this is how I like it. But for me, like, I don't really feel happy trying to live that life. And so I guess my main question is, like, I know that no one enjoys doing this or really living this life, and maybe to some, like, it brings a sense of happiness, but in the end, there's always gonna be something that's gonna trigger you or something that's gonna make you mad. And I don't know, like, the way that many people are handling difficult situations is really good, because most of the time I just see lots of people not really treating their mental illnesses or disorders or taking it seriously, but rather trying to affect others with their own issues rather than dealing with it and confronting it. And that bothers me a lot, is just seeing people that are like very much crazy, or people that really don't take the time to understand themselves and their mind affecting others, and like not even taking that seriously. Because how you, like, abandoning yourself and completely neglecting the fact that the actions and the words that you're doing is very harmful to other people, it can just be so inconsiderate and just like affect the whole society in and of itself. And that's the thing that makes me the most like really scared about, is like the types of people that they don't really get themselves checked, or they don't really like take a moment of self-reflection to realize that their attitude with life and how they're treating the people around them, it's not good, and it can affect people around them, and it can affect like how much things we get done, and being a much more collective society, or a society where we're all working together and we're agreeing on the same thing. Because again, if the attitude or if the consensus of the collective is to always go against people, or to not learn and respect other people's disabilities, or however their culture or whatever environments they grew up in, then I'm not sure like how are we like as a collective even going to like, you know, fix the main issues of society if we're like always gonna always disagree with other people and not even try to understand where they come from or what's causing that. Because you don't have any sense of awareness or even evidence of like what you're thinking right now. Like, that's how they're gonna think. Like, I just think that coming to this permanent assumption that everyone thinks exactly like me is very selfish, because no one thinks exactly like you. And I don't know, I just feel like, again, like this very like fear of that people are not really thinking about other people, but they're really just thinking about themselves, and they're not really considering that the words and the actions that they're doing against other people can affect them, and that in return can affect society and like the things that we need to get done and the things that we need to solve. And I just don't see like any problems being solved at this current moment. Like, I'm just seeing like more conflict and more disagreements, and maybe like I'm just surrounded with negative people currently, so I can't really clearly see the bigger picture. But I just need to like see like a collective effort of just maybe more mental health awareness, and maybe more consciousness, and an effort that like of trying to understand yourself at least, so that you can prevent like the reactions that you're gonna cause to other people. Because like, again, I noticed that like people that don't spend time with themselves to understand what triggers them or what makes them mad, they end up using their disorders or their, I guess, the things that cause them like a reaction. They do that to other people, and that's just not good. I guess like there needs to be like an awareness thing, because I don't know. I just think that, people that they know what they're doing is wrong, or they know that, the reactions that they're gonna give to other people, it's gonna hurt them. Like, I think those people really just need to stay with themselves for a bit and self-reflect. And then, yeah, maybe the other people who have like OCD and schizophrenia, I mean, there's a different category for these types of disorders. Like, there's the emotional ones, and then there's the ones where they hallucinate, and then there's the ones where they literally have like no attention whatsoever. I think that in those categories, like all of these people really need to make a conscious effort to improve in, rather than always rejecting the reality of the situation, because it is like literally a chemical imbalance. And I think that if we just put at least a few percentage of efforts into like trying to understand ourselves and like what we know triggers us, then at least that can prevent like further conflicts. Because what I'm noticing is that, again, people don't really put a conscious effort to understanding themselves, and in return to not understanding themselves, they affect the other people around them because of their selfishness. Like, how I see it is like, you're selfish, or you're not really taking in an effort to understand the things that trigger you, and in return you're affecting people because of your inability to not really, try to at least take a time to understand yourself. And maybe that's impossible for some people, and I get it, but I think that there really needs to like be an emphasis on like some form of like awareness or consciousness about like the brain, and like just self-care, really self-care. I think people should learn to love themselves and do self-care more often, because I'm just like not seeing that right now. So I guess that's like my main concern with people these days. There just seems to be a lack of like self-care and maybe empathy and awareness that, the lack of not taking care of yourself can in return affect other people too. So yeah, basically that's all I wanted to say.